Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with another Christmas card set, because I made two for my holiday card series. So I started off with the new Christmas star background stamp from Simon's Holiday Sparkle release. And I have it just face up on my work surface here. And I have a couple pieces of Simon's smooth white cardstock. I'm using my anti-static powder tool on both of these. And then I'm going to ink up this background stamp with clear embossing ink. And then I'll press my cardstock into it and then coat it with embossing powder. Now you could do this with your Misty, etc. For me, it just depends on my mood. Usually though, if I'm stamping like on watercolor paper, texture paper, those sorts of things, that's usually when I'll use my Misty with a background stamp. But again, it just depends on my mood. So with this, I wasn't too concerned about not getting a good impression because I had a pretty good feeling. Just the style of the stamp and smooth cardstock, you know. So for my embossing powder, I used Hero Art's White Satin Pearl, which I always, for some reason, I always forget I own it. And then, you know, I come across it and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this stuff. It's really pretty. In the end, with this type of card, because I'm going to do, you know, flat shaker and foil and all the things, you could just use clear embossing powder. It'd be fine. It's one of those times where it really doesn't make that much of a difference, but I do recommend the White Satin Pearl embossing powder just to have in your craft stash because it is really pretty. I'll have to use it with some other cards to show it even more. I've shown it over the years, but yeah. Anyway, coated the stamped images with that embossing powder, melted it with my heat tool, and yeah, once that's done, I'm going to tilt both of these back and forth in light, make sure there's no dull grainy areas, everything is smooth and melted. Once they're smooth and melted, I am going to do some very simple ink blending. I did a video recently for Honeybee on their channel, a live video, and I did this purple combo, and I was like, I love it. I love it. I need to use it again. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using Distress Oxide inks. And I'm using shaded lilac first. That's my lightest purple. And just applying that with my blending tool. And I have some Post-it tape on my fingers just so I don't get fingerprints all over this. Because any like water reactive type ink, especially when you're coating like an entire background with it, it's amazing how like it'll pick up fingerprints and things like that. So I do my blending with my lightest color, so the shaded lilac, and then I'll go in to Wilted Violet, and I'm going to blend that, and I'm going to pull it up quite high over the shaded lilac. I want these backgrounds to be solid color for one, but also a little bit darker, just because of the foil sentiment I'm going to use, so I want it to show up. You need kind of a darker, the darker the background, the better, or the more solid background, the better. Because yeah, when it comes to flat shakers and doing foiled sentiments, because I did a couple, I think for my last year's Christmas card series. Yeah. So it helps just to have like a darker background, or even a more simple background. That's also why I chose this background stamp, because it's really, really pretty, but it's not super intricate, super busy. So anywho, after I did Wilted Violet, I went into Villainous Potion, which, chef's kiss, I love this color, and blended that onto these panels. And then I'm going to go in with just a little bit of black soot just along the bottom. I don't know why I really like that like lead of like light purple all the way to dark to all the way to black. So once I've got everything blended on here, I just take a cloth and wipe it over these backgrounds, because the ink is sitting on top of that embossing, because of course the heat embossed image resists all of that ink, and you can just see how much it just pops as soon as you wipe that ink away. And like right there, card made. Like you don't even have to do the flat shaker and everything else. It's like you can just, you know, slap a sentiment on this, and I think it's just fabulous. But of course I'm going to go, you know, extra. So while I had everything out, I also got my card bases. These are top folding A2 cards, and I have the score line masked off, and I'm inking up this Christmas star stamp with the shaded lilac Distress Oxide ink. Just my lightest purple. I'm gonna stamp on the inside. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm also going to keep it to just this background on the inside. I decided not to add sentiments or anything. Again, it just depends on my mood. But I really like this background stamp. And I was like, it looks so pretty on the inside too. So yeah, decided not to add any sentiments. Just letting the background shine and the nice light purple. So same thing with the second card base. Stamp that onto the inside of the card. Remove the Post-it tape. We're good to go. So hot foiling. I have shown this in other flat shaker card videos. And I will have a link to my flat shaker playlist because I've done several videos because I love making them. They're fun. But I am going to hot foil onto just recycled packaging. It works. I've done it and it works. So the packaging is just packaging that cardstock came in because I save it all. And I already trimmed it down. And then I'm using the new Believe hot foil plate. So I have my Spellbinders Glimmer machine was already on, heated up, ready to go. I put the Believe hot foil plate onto the Glimmer machine. I have my foil ready. It was already trimmed down. I put the foil with the pretty side of the foil facing the plate, and then my piece of packaging. And then I added just a piece of cardstock. This is just kind of a shim, to make sure I get it pressed in properly since packaging is thinner than cardstock. Press the timer button, waited till the timer went solid, and then I took the whole thing out of my hot foil machine, ran it through my Platinum 6 die cut machine. And as always, this is the best part, removing everything, peeling off that foil, and it foils like a dream. I just use my fingers to wipe off any areas like in between the letters and stuff that might catch some of that extra foil. I just wiped it off and it came right off, no problem. So I did that twice. So I have 2 pieces foiled with that sentiment. And then I took my backgrounds and I trimmed them down just a little bit. You don't have to, like this could be a total edge to edge shaker card, but I don't know. I really like trimming down my pieces a little bit. So it'll just be, smaller than the A2 card. I like the border. I like the frame of the card based around it. It's just personal preference. So I trimmed these down just a little bit. And then I pulled out just some purple cardstock from my stash and the Believe sentiment set. Now this stamp set is old. This came out years ago, like 2016, something like that. I've had the set for years. Like the stamps are starting to yellow a bit. They still work great. It's fine. But yeah, this stamp set is just oldie but goodie. I'll link to the stamp set. There's also actually a Believe die set that is the word and the outline, and it coordinates with the hot foil plate as well. And same thing, the Believe die set I think is from like 2016, 17. I'm not even sure. And it's amazing as well. So I'll have links to those if you guys don't actually already own them. But the Believe set is nice because there's actually only one Christmas sentiment in there. There's just a bunch of other really good sentiments in that set, which I just love. Believe in the kindness of others. I will always believe in you. Believe all things are possible. And then this one I use Believe in the magic of Christmas. So I heat embossed that onto that purple cardstock with silver embossing powder. And then once I was done and melted the embossing powder, I wiped off the excess anti-static powder, and then I just trimmed these down with my paper trimmer. Usually I cut this out of videos because it's boring, but sometimes I'll leave it in. Just as like everything, like my entire life, it depends on my mood, but it also sometimes just depends on like camera things because a lot of times my head's in the way or weird things like that. Anyway, I trimmed down those sentiments. Now I've got my packaging here and I just lined it up on the background because normally, I just slap packaging on, adhere it into place, everything's good. But because it's got a sentiment hot foiled onto it, I want the sentiment straight. So I lined it up and then I just temporarily taped it into place with a little piece of washi tape. And then I'm using Simon's Terrific tape and applying that along the back perimeter of this panel. And then apply tape along the edge, fold over the packaging, press it in, do that to all 3 sides. And then the 4th side, I put the adhesive in place, but I'm not going to seal it up yet because I got to fill it with all the shaker goodness. So I just got the adhesive in place. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other card front. So line up that sentiment, tape it temporarily into place with the washi tape, and then use the Terrific tape to adhere the edges to the underside of these panels. Once I've got all 3 sides adhered, I'll apply the adhesive to the 4th side, but leave it in place. And then I'm going to fill these with shaker goodness. So I'm using some Studio Cottia crystal discs. Love. Chef's kiss. As well as some Trinity Stamps, Oh My Stars embellishment mix. I kind of think both of these are sold out at the moment. They will be restocked. I know the Trinity ones I think will be restocked this week. I'm pretty sure. Love. And and again, I had to hold myself back. I had like a pile of sequins offside. You guys know. I will fill these things with everything but the kitchen sink. It is really hard for me to back off. But I did. And I'm glad I did, because these turned out even better than I thought. I think if I had overfilled them and added like 15 different sequin mixes, it would have just been too much. So once I was happy with them and, told myself like, nope, stop, I sealed up the final side, and then I trim off the little edges, because when you fold over the pieces, they stick out and that sort of a thing. So I just trim those off with my scissors, because in the end you're not going to see any of this. It's going to be adhered to the actual card base. So I trimmed all that off. And then to adhere those little companion sentiments, I use more of that Terrific tape and just put a couple pieces on the back of it. And then got my tweezers out to hold these, because my fingers were getting in the way, and I was like, I kind of wanted to center them. So I used my tweezers to hold that and then pop those into place on the packaging. And it is really hard to see it properly, even at the end. And my photos do somewhat justice. I struggle filming holographic anything, let alone trying to take pictures of it, all of that. It's a nightmare. I am not skilled to do those sorts of photos. And 2, the lights are just going nuts, reflecting off of all the sparkle and hollow and, but they're fun and they're pretty and they're purple and they're sparkly and I love them. So anyway, to adhere them to the card bases, I used score tape. Just again, good, strong adhesive. Also, this is kind of doing double duty, because not only is it adhering to the card base, but it also seals up all of that folded over packaging, everything. So these are not going anywhere. They're not going to fall apart, anything. So we're good to go. So once those are sealed up, these cards are done. They're simple, and yet there's so much going on, and the color and the hollow and the foil, it's fun. And then I also took it to an extra step and paired them with Simon's holographic envelopes, and they're shaky. They got their little shaky bits, and yeah, the foiled sentiment is so much fun, because I use a speckled silver foil, so it's not solid silver, so that's also extra sparkly. And then the hollow envelopes, which you can see just freaking out in the lights here. But yeah, these cards are blingy, and yet they're flat. They will mail easily, all the good things. So as always, I will have a link below the video to all the supplies I used. I'll link to my website, all of that stuff. And then at the end of this video, I will link to my current Christmas holiday playlist for this year that I'll keep adding to as I upload, as well as to the flat shakers. And you can check those out if you've missed any of those videos. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.